India is not a single destination. It is a subcontinent of 1.4 billion people, speaking more than 100 languages across 28 states, and a geography that ranges from some of the highest mountains on Earth to tropical beaches, to one of the world's great deserts, to river deltas, to high plateaus, to dense jungle. Trying to see India in one trip is like trying to see Europe in one trip. Theoretically possible, but practically inadequate. And the version of India that any single itinerary captures is always a partial portrait of something vastly larger than the frame. This is the decision that most first-time visitors to India actually face. Not which India to see, but which India to start with. And in 2026, 3 destinations dominate that conversation: the Himalayas, Rajasthan, and Goa, because they represent 3 fundamentally different Indias, attract 3 different types of traveler, operate at 3 different price points, and offer 3 different versions of what travel in this country actually feels like. Choosing between them is not a matter of one being better than another. It is a matter of who you are, what you want from the trip, and how much you are willing to be challenged by the country in the process. The Himalayas, India at its most extreme. The Indian Himalayan region encompasses a string of territories along the northern edge of the subcontinent: Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, and the northeastern states, each with its own culture, climate, terrain, and set of experiences that have nothing in common with the India most people imagine before they arrive. Ladakh is where India becomes Tibet, the high-altitude desert landscape of the Indus Valley, barren mountains and ochres and grays, ancient Buddhist monasteries perched on ridges above glacier-fed rivers, many walls of carved prayer stones stretching along the road. The particular quality of high-altitude light at 3,500 meters is unlike anything else in India and unlike most things anywhere else in the world. Leh, the main town, sits at 3,524 meters and requires acclimatization. Arriving and immediately attempting anything strenuous is the fastest way to turn altitude sickness from a possibility into a certainty. Spend 2 days doing very little beyond walking slowly, drinking water, and allowing your body to adjust. Then the landscape opens up. The monasteries of Thiksi, Hemis, and Diskit, the confluence of the Indus and Zanskar rivers at Nimmu, the frozen landscapes of Nubra Valley via the Khar La Pass at 5,359 meters, one of the highest motorable roads in the world, and the extraordinary dark skies above Pangong Tso Lake, where the altitude and the distance from light pollution produce a nighttime sky that justifies the entire journey. Himachal Pradesh offers a more accessible version of Himalayan India. Dharamshala, the home of the Tibetan government in exile and the Dalai Lama, is a town of 2 elevations: the lower town of Dharamshala and the upper town of McLeod-Ganj, which is functionally a Tibetan town on an Indian hillside, full of monasteries, meditation centers, momos, Tibetan dumplings, and the political consciousness of a community that has been in exile since 1959. Manali, further north, is the gateway to the Rohtang Pass and Spiti Valley, a high-altitude cold desert that shares more geography with Ladakh than with the Himachal valleys below it. Kasol in the Parvati Valley attracts a younger, more countercultural crowd and serves as a trekking base for routes into the high Himalayan wilderness above the valley. Uttarakhand contains the Char Dham, the 4 Hindu pilgrimage sites of Yamunotri, Gangotri, Kedarnath, and Badrinath, making it one of the most sacred landscapes in Hinduism. The trek to Kedarnath, at 3,583 meters above the temple town of Gaurikund, is one of the most significant pilgrimages in India and is undertaken by hundreds of thousands of people every year. The Valley of Flowers, designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, blooms briefly and spectacularly in July and August with alpine meadows of extraordinary color. Who should go to the Himalayas? Adventure travelers, trekkers, altitude seekers, Buddhist culture enthusiasts, photographers pursuing extreme landscape, and anyone who finds the density and heat of the Indian plains overwhelming and wants the opposite of both. Not recommended for first-time India visitors who want a comprehensive cultural overview. The Himalayas are geographically and culturally removed from the India most people arrive expecting to find. Best time, May through September for Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, with the caveat that July and August bring monsoon rains to the lower valleys. Ladakh is best from June through September, when the Kardung La and other high passes are open. Winter in Ladakh is extraordinary and extremely cold. Temperatures drop to -20 and below in January. But the Chadar trek on the frozen Zanskar River is one of the most extreme and magnificent winter trekking experiences in the world. Budget? The Himalayas run the full range. Budget trekking from a guest house base in McLeod Ganj or Kasol is genuinely affordable, $25 to $40 per day. Ladakh, with flights from Delhi, guides, and mid-range accommodation, runs $80 to $150 per day. Guided high-altitude expeditions and exclusive lodges push significantly higher. Rajasthan, India's most cinematic landscape. Rajasthan is the India that most people imagine before they arrive. The land of desert forts and palace hotels and camel safaris, and the particular gold light of Jaisalmer at dusk, and the blue buildings of Jodhpur, and the lake palaces of Udaipur, reflected in still water. It is also genuinely, entirely, unmistakably extraordinary. The photographs are accurate. The reality exceeds them. The state covers more than 342,000 square kilometers of northwestern India and was, until Indian independence in 1947, a collection of princely states each ruled by a Maharaja with its own court culture and architectural tradition. What independence did not erase was the physical legacy, the forts and palaces and havelis, ornate merchant mansions, that make Rajasthan the most architecturally dense and visually spectacular state in India. Jaipur, the Pink City, is the standard first stop, accessible by train from Delhi in 4 to 5 hours. The Amber Fort, rising above the Myota Lake on the edge of the Aravalli Hills, is the defining Rajput fortress. Its interior, a succession of ornate halls, pavilions, and mirror-work rooms that took 2 centuries to construct. The Hawa Mahal, the Palace of Winds, its extraordinary honeycomb facade of 953 windows, designed so that royal women could observe street festivals unseen. And the Jantar Mantar, the 18th century astronomical observatory of enormous stone instruments capable of measuring time to within 2 seconds, constitute a single day of genuinely overwhelming architecture. Jodhpur is the Blue City, a labyrinthine old city of indigo-painted houses surrounding the Mehrangarh Fort, which rises 125 meters above the city on a rocky outcrop that makes it appear grown from the geology beneath it. The interior of Mehrangarh contains some of the finest examples of Rajput architecture in existence. The view from the fort over the blue rooftops with the Thar Desert on the horizon is one of the great city views in India. Jaisalmer is the desert city, the golden fort rising from the Thar as if a natural geological formation. The only living fort in India where people actually inhabit the medieval streets within the walls. The camel safari into the Sam Sand Dunes, an hour west, is the activity that most visitors do, and most visitors remember, sleeping on the dunes under extraordinary desert stars, the silence broken only by wind in the sand. Udaipur is the city of lakes. Palaces and temples built around artificial lakes in the southern Aravalli Hills. Widely considered the most romantic city in India and one of the most beautiful cities in Asia. The Lake Palace, sitting in the middle of Lake Pichala, now a Taj luxury hotel accessible only by boat, is one of the most celebrated hotel conversions in the world. The view from any rooftop in the old city at sunset, across the lake to the palace and the hills beyond, is the image of Rajasthan that no photograph prepares you for. Who should go to Rajasthan? First-time India visitors, culture and history enthusiasts, architecture lovers, photographers, luxury travelers who want India's palace hotel tradition, and families with children old enough to appreciate the scale of the forts. Rajasthan has the most visitor-friendly tourist infrastructure in India outside Goa. Best time? October through March. The Rajasthan winter, cool nights, warm days, clear skies, is correct for outdoor exploration of the forts and desert. April through June is punishing heat. July through September is monsoon, which transforms the desert dramatically green but complicates travel. Budget, full range, budget accommodation, and local transport, $30 to $60 per day. Mid-range guest houses and private taxis, $80 to $150 per day. The palace hotels, Oberoi Uday Villas, Taj Lake Palace, Sujan Sher Bagh, push $400 to $1,000 per night and represent some of the finest hotel experiences in the world. Goa, India, at its most relaxed. Goa is not India in the way that Rajasthan is India. It is a former Portuguese colony on the southwestern coast of the subcontinent that spent 450 years developing a hybrid culture. Catholic churches beside Hindu temples, Vindaloo beside fish curry, the whitewashed architecture of the old colonial towns beside the palm-lined beaches of the Arabian Sea. That is genuinely distinct from the India on either side of its borders. The beaches are what most visitors come for, and they are genuine and excellent. The northern beaches, Baga, Kalangut, Anjuna, Vagator, are the party beaches, dense with beach shacks, nightclubs, trance parties inherited from the rave scene that landed in Goa in the late 1980s and never quite left, and the full infrastructure of mass beach tourism. They are not the best beaches in Goa. The best beaches in Goa are in the south. Palolem is the most beautiful. A crescent of white sand backed by palm trees, with calm enough water for swimming and enough beach shack restaurants and guest houses to make it comfortable without being overdeveloped. Aganda, a few kilometers north, is quieter still, the kind of beach where you rent a hut for a week and do very little with great dedication. Kola Beach, accessible by a steep path through the jungle, has a freshwater lagoon behind the sand that is fed by a small waterfall. Butterfly Beach, accessible only by boat, is genuinely remote by Goa standards and worth the effort. Old Goa, the former capital of the Portuguese Estado da India, contains a UNESCO World Heritage Site of extraordinary colonial religious architecture. The Basilica of Bom Jesus, completed in 1605, holds the relics of St. Francis Xavier and is the most sacred Catholic site in Asia east of Portugal. The Sea Cathedral, the largest church in Asia at the time of its construction, and the Church of St. Francis of Assisi surrounding it form a concentration of 16th and 17th century religious architecture that has no equivalent on this side of the planet. Goa in 2026 is more expensive than it was 10 years ago, and significantly more crowded between December and February, when the combination of European winter refugees, domestic Indian tourists, and the wedding season drives prices upward and beaches inward. The shoulder months, October through November and March through April, offer the best combination of weather, manageable crowds, and reasonable prices. Who should go to Goa? Beach seekers, relaxation-focused travelers, couples, yoga and wellness seekers, foodies interested in the distinctive Goan seafood and Portuguese-influenced cuisine, and anyone who wants India with the volume, turned down from maximum to somewhere manageable. Best time, November through February for dry season reliability. October and March for shoulder season value. Avoid April through September. The monsoon season in Goa is dramatic and genuinely beautiful if you embrace it. But many beach restaurants and guest houses close, and the sea becomes too rough for swimming. Budget. Goa is mid-range India. Budget beach huts in the south run $25 to $50 per night. Mid-range boutique guest houses run $80 to $150. The luxury villas and resort properties in the north, particularly the W Goa and the Four Seasons at Private Island, accessible from Goa, push well above this. Food and drink at beach shacks runs $15 to $30 per person per meal in the popular areas. Suggested combination itineraries: Rajasthan plus Goa, the classic first-timer combination, 14 to 16 days. This is the most natural pairing and the one that gives a first-time visitor the broadest and most satisfying introduction to India's range. Fly into Delhi, spend a day acclimatizing, then take the train south to Jaipur, 4 hours on the Shatabdi Express, 3 days in Jaipur, 2 days in Jodhpur, 2 days in Jaisalmer, including the overnight desert camp, then back east to Udaipur for 3 days. Fly from Udaipur to Goa, 1 hour, and spend the final 5 to 6 days on the southern beaches, decompressing after the intensity of Rajasthan. The combination works because the cultural saturation of Rajasthan is balanced by the beach relaxation of Goa, and the two require no overlap in timing since both are best from October through March. Himalayas plus Rajasthan, the adventure and culture combination, 18 to 21 days, fly into Delhi. 10 days in the Himalayas, either Ladakh for the Buddhist landscape and extreme terrain, or Himachal Pradesh for the trekking and Tibetan culture of McLeod Ganj. Fly back to Delhi and take the train to Jaipur, 8 to 10 days through the Rajasthan circuit. This combination requires more time and more stamina. The altitude adjustment in Ladakh, the desert heat of Rajasthan, and the transit between them constitute a physically demanding itinerary. The reward is two of the most dramatically different landscapes in Asia within a single trip. Goa plus Himalayas. The contrast combination, 14 days. Start in Goa for 7 days. Arrive, decompress, eat seafood, swim, then fly Delhi and connect to Leh or Manali for the second week. The contrast between the tropical coast and the high-altitude desert is genuinely disorienting in the best possible way, and the Goa week provides the rest that the Himalayas week will demand. Practical tips: visas, transport, and safety. Visas in 2026. India's e-visa covers most nationalities for tourist visits of up to 90 days. Apply through the official portal at indianvisaonline.gov.in at least 4 business days before travel, longer during peak season. The e-tourist visa costs $25 to $80 depending on nationality and duration. Approval typically arrives within 72 hours as a PDF that you print and present on arrival. Transport. Indian Railways is the correct way to move between major Rajasthan cities. Book through the IRCTC website or app. Create an account before you travel. Tatkal quota tickets released 24 hours before departure are useful when regular quota is sold out but cost a premium. For Ladakh, domestic flights from Delhi are the practical option. The drive is extraordinary, but takes 2 to 3 days from Delhi. Within cities in 2026, Uber and Ola function well in all major Indian cities and eliminate the negotiation that unmetered auto rickshaws require. In smaller towns and hill stations, auto rickshaws remain the standard short-distance option. Agree on a fare before departing. Safety. India is safe for tourists, but requires standard urban awareness. Keep your phone and camera secure in crowded markets. Use ATMs inside banks rather than stand-alone street machines. Solo female travelers should research specific destinations. Rajasthan's major cities are generally safe with normal precautions, but remote areas require more care. Drink only bottled or filtered water. Start with street food cautiously and let your system adjust. Altitude for Ladakh. Altitude sickness is a genuine medical concern above 3,500 meters. Arrive in Leh and rest for 48 hours before any exertion. This is not overcautious advice. Diamox is widely available in Leh's pharmacies and used prophylactically by many visitors. The verdict: go to Rajasthan if this is your first time in India, if you are primarily interested in history, architecture, and culture, if you want to travel in relative comfort with well-developed tourist infrastructure, and if you want the India that will match and exceed your pre-trip imagination. Go to the Himalayas if you are drawn to extreme landscapes and altitude. If Buddhist culture and Tibetan heritage interest you more than Hindu temple architecture, if you are an active traveler who wants to hike rather than sightsee, and if the intensity of the Indian plains sounds exhausting rather than exciting. Go to Goa if you need a beach holiday in a country that offers more than beaches. If the density and complexity of India sounds overwhelming for a first trip, if you want to decompress rather than be stimulated, or if you are combining it with Rajasthan as the recovery half of a longer itinerary. India does not have a wrong answer. It has 3 very good ones, and whichever you choose, the country will give you more than you expected and confirm, within the first week, that you need to come back for the others. Then subscribe, because next week we go somewhere else entirely, and it is just as extraordinary.